basically for the international students of Islamic Psychology.
MashaAllah, that's such an amazing journey, and I think there are a lot of students here who are studying psychology, and like it's Western psychology, so it's like very comforting to know that there are people who want to integrate Islam into psychology and make it easier for us. So thank you for your work, MashaAllah. I'm going to move on to Sister Abi. So Sister Abi, your journey is you're now doing a Bachelor of Education. So how has your academic experience shaped your teaching and professional careers?
So for I think a little bit similarly to you. My academic experience did shape my so I went into undergrad and wanted to go into science and research, and then I soon realized that I'm not into that. But I actually always wanted to be a teacher, my entire life, ever since I was a kid. But I was discouraged from it because apparently at that time the job market was not so great, so I was discouraged from it. And also, unfortunately, I don't know if this is common in all cultures, but especially in the Desi culture, it's or at least in my home, at least, being a teacher was kind of not something that was looked up to so much as, oh, you're just a teacher, you could do so much more. So because of that, I felt like maybe I should try to do something that's considered better, and I thought going into research was that. Turned out I was not into it, but I had the opportunity to be I guess familiar with the facilities study groups that are at HBSc. So being a facilitator for that, where I was actually leading study groups, kind of revived my love for teaching, and I realized that, okay, I don't think there's anything I'm passionate about other than teaching. And I think it's also a very powerful tool for, it's basically a form of tarbiyah. So that is also kind of incorporating that into my passion for, helping Ummah and Islam and Islamic sciences, some of the sisters were mentioning as well. Yeah, that's where I kind of got to where I am today. I'm still very much I'm really just studying still, so I'm very happy to hear that I actually did complete the Bachelor's of Education that you were working with HBSc, so I'm actually I would love to learn from you as well. But yeah, that's what brings me here today, even though it's a little different from what I did in undergrad.
Thank you for sharing your story, because teachers are a really important part of society, and we need more teachers like you, inshallah. So I hope that inspires other people who can, maybe teaching isn't for me, or you have this culture of restraints that you get into teaching, inshallah. And I'll move on to Aishah. So our next question is related to you're working in media, and it can often present challenges in terms of staying grounded in your faith. So how do you maintain your Islamic principles in such a dynamic environment?
I think for me, it's really important to just integrate it in everything that I do. So I keep it in the back of my mind with the roles that I take on, the companies that I work with, the stories that I pitch, especially in today's climate when you have an abundance of misinformation, propaganda. When I choose the companies that I work for, like CTV, for example, I was very cognizant of doing my research and seeing what kind of stuff they put out there, because I know with companies like CBC, for example, they can be a little passive with the way that they present the news, and that's not something that I align with. And I think it's also a double-edged sword, because I do know Muslims who work with CBC, and even though you don't want to necessarily sign off on the things you're putting out there, you also kind of want to be there so you can implement that change little by little. Because even at CTV, for example, I'm making sure I'm reading the stories. If I see the rundown, because I'm news writing as well, for our host in the morning, I'm making sure I'm reading the stories that I'm doing with Palestine, so I can make sure the correct information is getting out there, and I feel like I'm contributing to, putting the right information out there, because that's what's lacking so much. And also throughout my undergrad degree, I was a co-manager for Paper Magazine, which is about amplifying American experience. When I did my internship at TVO earlier this year, I pitched an idea about how genocide and hustle was affecting Muslims across the world, especially during the time of Ramadan. And I was able to report on that. So I think reading those experiences, there is a space for it. I think you just have to advocate for yourself and for the idea. And you have to be resilient. Sometimes there will be pushback, but I think if you put your best foot forward, that's really important. And also, I lost my train of thought. Also, it just helps me with my roles, and I knowing that I'm a Muslim in space, and especially hijabi, that's so serious to begin with, I can't risk just jeopardizing the position that I'm in and, potentially being the wrong representation. I think it helps me hold myself accountable because there is such a community that is depending on me and we're looking for people in space, so I think that's really important as well.
That's actually really amazing because everything that's been happening in the media, especially in the recent months, it's really inspirational to see your resilience despite all that's happening. So that's great. Aliya, so how did your Islamic values and your principles influence the way that you lead your entrepreneurial and advocacy projects?
I don't even know where to start. There's a couple of things I'm involved in. Recently, I started the Leap a Day initiative at U of T, and purity is essential part of Islam, right? And coming from a Muslim country where bidets or water to clean up after yourself is everywhere, and you don't have to think twice about it. Coming to Canada, biggest culture shock was no water anywhere in the washroom, right? So I think that part really inspired me to do something like this. Even in entrepreneurship, I'm surrounded with a lot of people that are not Muslim in all of the pitch competitions, etc. that I participated in. Being a female, hijabi, Muslim, international student, ethnically Indian is nowhere to be seen. And then actually pitching and coming first place multiple times shook the crowd. And it really inspired the fellow Muslim females especially to see somebody of my profile to go up there and just shake everybody, right? So I think I do that because I really want to create more positive representation of female Muslims in a Western country. Because there's a lot of stigma, let's be honest, and there's a lot of Islamophobia that people associate with being Muslim, and I think that if we create these positive representations of Muslims, then that is the change and the revolution that's coming.
SubhanAllah, it's amazing to see Aliya starting all of these projects and working through them. And it's very important for the Muslim women to head all of these projects. So thank you, Aliya. You're going to do another day. Okay. So Sister Fatima, as a psychotherapist and an educator, how do you ensure that your Islamic principles remain central to your practice?
One of the things about being a teacher is you do have a lot of leeway. You could go, I actually work in the largest elementary public school in North America. So our staff is 3, 4, 5 schools combined. So it's very possible that I can go and not for weeks and not see the principal or not interact with them. And it's just so large. And teaching itself is a very, the teacher has a lot of control of the classroom. And so if you don't have your own taqwa, there's really nothing that's going to be holding you to that. And so, this year, actually for the last 3 years, there's one class I teach core French, actually. I teach core French, drama, and dance. That's something. People laugh, I laugh too. They're like, you teach what? But anyways, but for the last 3 years, I've also been teaching an ID class. And literally just this week, there was an incident where another teacher is really not, let's say, teaching with any type of integrity. And, some of the conversations that I had with other staff who were Muslims, I said, honestly, if you don't have taqwa, you can treat, people any way that you want to, and you would really know, especially kids who are voiceless. And so that is a principle that I think, we have to inculcate communicate that, and so that when we interact with people, whether someone's watching us or not, we're going to be, holding ourselves to the Islamic principles. I think that goes for any discipline, but, specifically like in education. The other thing is, working with an equity lens and always being able to, like I went my entire schooling, never seen any representation, never seen a book. So I really try and highlight, Muslim stories, Islamic Heritage Month. We've highlighted the contributions of Muslims. We have currently up in our school right now, we have famous Muslim athletes. So I'm really trying to, bring that awareness of the deen, of, leaders of this Muslim Ummah into a context that is relatable to those students.
SubhanAllah, because the taqwa is like the main center of being Muslim, and without that we're nothing. So it's amazing to see how you guys have incorporated that into your work. We are a bit short on time, so I'm just end with one question. I'll start with Abi. So what's one tip that you would one tip for staying connected to your Muslim identity in the workforce or in your education routine?
I still want it, but there's two things I'm time for me. It's all different. But one thing I would say is literally from day one, you should hold your Islam with a high head. Be proud of your Islam and understand that you have been gifted with something that's so powerful and so beautiful and amazing that you have no reason to have inferiority complex or feel like you're less than, feel ashamed or anything. And also the way that people perceive you also just depends on how you carry yourself. If you carry yourself with confidence and you know that your Islam is actually what gives you your worth and your value and that Islam empowers you, then you don't have to be afraid of what other people are going to, how other people will perceive you, right? Even if in the beginning it's fake it till you make it, I would say understand, from day one, have your head high and be confident about anything and everything to do with Islam when you're talking about Islam, because if you set that, if you set your, my words are leaving me, but if you set that perception, if you set the perception of yourself as that Muslim, then you're not going to be afraid later down the line if you something, comes up and you're afraid to talk about your identity and stuff. But I would also say very importantly to back that up with also keeping up your taqwa, like Sister mentioned, outside of your workplace and during obviously as well, because especially if you're in a workplace or in an environment where there are not many Muslims, you are only as strong as the community that you put yourself around. So you have to make sure that if there's not a strong community in your workplace or your school, then make sure that you are invested into other communities where there are a lot of Muslims, because the Ummah works best when we are united. You can't, of course, your taqwa is between you and Allah, but having that community is what actually helps us be strong as well. So I would say reinforce your relationship with Allah by inserting yourself into a community.
I would say for me, it was throughout my life I've learned the importance of trusting Allah's plan, because there have been so many moments in my life where I tried so hard in this application where I was really banking on getting this position and I didn't get it, and it destroys you. It's really hard sometimes. That's natural, but I think to just remember that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. For example, when I was a year behind in journalism schooling, I was upset. I was like, well, I'm behind in life, I'm not doing as well as my peers, but if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to go on a semester abroad because COVID was happening. So everything worked out. That was one of the best experiences of my life. So I think it's really important to just always keep that in the back of your mind that what's good for you will come to you, and there's wisdom behind this plan, and just trust that.
Thank you so much for that. Is this about identity or just advice in general? Advice in general?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, really put yourself out there, especially as female Muslims. I think that a lot of us are shy and nervous to really put ourselves out there because we feel like we're not being respectful, or we feel like we're not
try and create that balance in your life, and take that time, as a